Good morning. Welcome to the Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. I'm Gary Demas, and Jamie Broslavsky is here with me, and we are talking today about kitchen islands, Jamie.
That's right.
Yeah, it'd be nice to talk about the United States Virgin Islands or, some kind of sunny, remote Caribbean islands.
Okay. I could do that too.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially looking at, snow outside. I think I could go for some
Maybe
islands.
we could do like a real sandy granite on a big island, and then people could imagine they were in the Bahamas.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Okay.
But we're not in the Bahamas. We're right here in good old Columbus, Ohio.
Sure are.
And
Every
there's
week.
A lot of people out there in the city that would probably like a really nice island, right?
Yes.
Okay, in the Caribbean.
I love I love a good big kitchen island.
Yep, I have a giant island in my house.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at some drawings of a project that one of our designers is working on. It's the biggest island I've ever seen. It's bigger than the one in my kitchen.
Really?
Yeah, it's gigantic.
Could it be? It's a new project?
Yeah.
Okay, because we finished one recently that I'm waiting to go photograph.
Yeah.
That's 16 feet.
Oh my God. You
So
could have your Thanksgiving dinner for the whole neighborhood.
I know. I'm going to have to bring everything I've ever purchased for photo shoots to stage that island. I don't even know what to do with that.
16 feet, that's gigantic.
Yes, it was gigantic. So that I think is the extreme. But speaking of island sizes, how do we go about determining the size of an island in a kitchen?
First we say hello to all of our listeners.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I got excited.
Okay. And now they know exactly what we're going to talk about next. But we just really enjoy doing the radio show for the people in the city of Columbus and then anyone else that listens all over the world on our podcast, right?
Yes.
All the thousands and multi-thousands. No, I guess not. But a few. We've gotten some responses from some people.
Yeah, definitely. And on the podcast, too. It is nationally listened to, which I think is really cool.
Okay, but we really welcome everyone listening this morning. Glad to have you with us. We're here every Sunday morning at 8. And again, it's the Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. And we have a very nice design studio right here in Columbus on Dublin-Granville Road, close to Sawmill. In the old, if anyone's lived in the Columbus area for a while, you remember the old unfinished furniture store there. And we have so many different clients come in and say, I bought a piece of furniture here back in the 80s or 90s or whatever.
Yeah. Occasionally we'll even have someone coming in looking for furniture still, which is funny.
Well, we can help them with that too.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So also would like to invite people to go to our website at davefox.com. And you can also go to davefoxradio.com, and there you can listen to this show or any of our previously broadcast shows. So now that we've got that out of the way, Jamie, let's get into great big islands that are 16 feet long.
Now we can talk about them.
Yeah.
All right, good.
So what was your question again?
Okay, so we were talking about sizes of kitchen islands, and these really big ones. But not all of them that we do are that excessively large. So what are some factors that take place in a kitchen that kind of help you determine the size of an island?
Yeah, that's a good question. Laying out a kitchen can be, there's really a lot of thought and professionalism and studies of how people use kitchens. Mm-hmm. And all that stuff has to come into play. So the number one factor is going to be making sure you have the proper clearances everywhere. And in some of the previous shows, Jamie, we've talked about how large of a difference just adding a couple feet on a kitchen can make, or maybe 2, 3, 4 feet. So there's a number of kitchens in the city that just don't have room for a legitimate island. The room is just not there. But I can think of many cases where we've added 2 or 3 feet and it made a complete difference in the floor plan. And we were able to add a true legitimate island that was reasonable size, but had the proper clearances all the way around, so people weren't, log jammed in, or couldn't get their seating easily, or were just kind of, if there's 2 cooks in the kitchen, that makes a difference too. So you're not stepping all over each other. So laying out an island is really important. And sometimes if they don't have the room and they really want one, we'll just say, I'm sorry, here's why it won't work.
Right.
And we have to be honest with people because we don't want to have them invest a lot of money in remodeling that just 2 years later they're just tired of it and it doesn't work for them and they regret doing it.
Yeah. And I think too, in speaking with some of our interior designers, there's that work triangle that they're always kind of talking about and flowing through, in a kitchen and when they're designing the space. And sometimes there's rules that they're okay breaking, depending on the situation, but then there's definitely rules that they never want to break. And I think that having those clearances is one of them.
Yeah.
Those are very studied and researched and thought through kind of guidelines with those clearances. And I think if anything, some of them err on the side of going more clearance than less, especially when you're talking about that space kind of between your perimeter cabinets and your island. I know a lot of them kind of like to do a little bit bigger than just the minimum clearance.
Yeah, I'm thinking back in my days when I first got my certified kitchen designer designation many years ago. And you just study a lot of that information and you memorize different rules of guidelines, how much space you need between counter spaces and if the dishwasher's opening or what's next to a sink or how much space you need beside a range. So all those things are important, and I'm really glad that a lot of our new designers are also getting those accreditations because just recently we've gotten, I think, 2 or 3 of our interior designers that have added accreditations to the, master kitchen and bath designer, and then certified kitchen and bath designer. So in those accreditations is when these people study all those rules and guidelines, and it helps them to make sure that they are creating a professional, well thought out and well functioning floor plan in the kitchen. So islands are a huge part of that, and making sure that they function properly.
Yeah. And I think determining kind of what the function is for you or your goals in your kitchen is really important too, to that island size. A lot of people have very strong opinions about a kitchen sink in the island or not in the island. What's your preference?
Yeah, a lot of times it does make sense. When you think about a second sink or a bar sink, your refrigerator placement has a big role there because you want to have water that's not real far from the fridge. If you're going to be washing off fruit or vegetables, you don't want to have to walk, 15 paces to get to a sink to do that.
Sure.
So depending on the layout, if we try to keep a refrigerator fairly close to the main sink, but sometimes, especially with a large island like in my kitchen, my refrigerator is clear on the other side of the island, and I added a bar sink right close to that, which is where my little smoothie bar is, which we were talking about a couple times ago. So that bar serves kind of a dual purpose. So it's handy there if you're going to wash some blueberries or blackberries or some lettuce or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Or I can make my smoothies there. So in that situation, that bar sink isn't in my island, but it's in the counter space right next to the refrigerator. But it could work in the island. And a lot of times, sometimes we put the main sink in the island. Because when people like to entertain, or when they like to when family hangs around the kitchen like they do so often, it's just a nice cleanup area there with other members of the family or with friends in the island area. So, there's a lot of different situations, and every house is different and every family is different, and that's why it really takes a lot of study and working with a client to find out what their needs are and how their family functions so that we can recommend the best ways to do that.
Yeah, I think, the sink is a big factor too, because if the main sink is going to be in your island, well, then you also need to have space for the dishwasher, and kind of thinking through all those things that go along with the sink. I also personally always feel like the trash should be where the sink is as well. So then you're talking, okay, you have the trash, you have the sink, you have the dishwasher.
Yeah.
That alone determines, the size of your island to an extent. At least it has to be that big.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, all that stuff has to work together, and you have to be able to have the space to pull that off. So that's what our designers help people figure out.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, Jamie. We'll be right back. And today we are talking about islands, right, Jamie?
That's right, the Caribbean
Nassau,
islands.
St. Thomas is a great island.
St. John is
Yep.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The Hawaiian Islands.
The Hawaiian Islands.
Yes.
Yep. Or the islands in our kitchen.
Those are cool too.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about
yes,
today.
Yeah. I guess we're a little bit more educated on kitchen islands.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so as we were talking about, the size of islands and what you put in an island, the work triangle plays into that too.
Yeah.
And number one, we said you've got to have the space for an island to work. A lot of times, I think an island is a great kitchen plan because it's free flowing. You're not stuck in a corner.
Mm-hmm.
You're not jammed up in against cabinets, and you can move around. And you need to have enough room for that to happen, and you have to have the right space between the counters and the cabinets. So 42 inches is what we would say is a minimum.
Yeah.
But let's say you've got a two-cook kitchen or you've got a dishwasher opening into that space, then 48 inches is better, or 46 inches. So there's just so many different things you have to consider. And once we determine that we've got the space to put an island in a kitchen plan, or maybe we're bumping the kitchen out in order to accommodate that, then we have to work on the work triangle, placement of appliances. As you mentioned, the sink's going to need a dishwasher and preferably a waste bin right there, right next to it. And if there's no sink in the island, maybe there's a cooktop in the island.
Right.
Then we've got a range hood to deal with, or maybe a downdraft system.
Mm-hmm.
Like my island has nothing in it because that's what my wife wanted. She just wanted a large surface, a work surface.
Yeah.
And we've got 4 seats for a snack bar on the other side. And that works great for us because that's what we needed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think taking all of that into account and, with the prep space and cooking and cleaning up, everything like that, sometimes when we'll go do photo shoots at a lot of our recently completed projects, I'll usually try and clean up or put something in the middle or whatever I'm trying to do with the island. And sometimes I cannot reach the center of the island.
Oh, yeah.
And I always think I love a big island, but I always would want to make sure, for me, I'm only about 5 feet tall. So for me, it can't be too big. I have to be able to reach the middle of the island because I think of, gosh, how do they wipe that down or without climbing on the counter?
We just have some pull-out steps for you, and you could climb up on it.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I always think of that when I go to do photo shoots because I'm particularly short and cannot reach as far. But so that is one thing that for me would impact kind of the size of my island, is I wouldn't want it to be so big that I couldn't reach the middle of it and things like that. But yeah, I think I'm kind of indifferent. I could take or leave having the sink in the island or having just one big kind of prep space. I could see both being really beneficial. I like the sink in the island for being able to look out while you're cleaning up, especially with little kids. It's nice to be able to still keep an eye on everybody and not have your back to them, or for entertaining. But then the idea of having all that prep space would be really nice as well. I think you just kind of have to decide on where everything else fits in the space and go from there.
Yeah.
But, speaking of seating at an island, I think that it's kind of a big trend, I would say, as far as, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw an island without seating at it. There's almost always some capacity of seating, but now also even just that built-in table kind of style that I've been seeing a lot of too. Sometimes it's still counter height, sometimes it's dropped down and it's table height. And I think that's a really interesting kind of concept, especially when it's a smaller space and we're encroaching on that eat-in kitchen area. I think that's a really cool concept.
Yeah, adding an attached table space helps you get more seating. And if you have a family that maybe they need to be able to seat 4 or 5 or 6 people at the island, well, maybe you'd have to build the 16-foot island you were talking about to pull that off. Or you could have an 8-foot island with an attached table that comes off of that island and get that seating.
Yeah.
So that definitely works. And a lot of times I like to drop those to a table height because it's really being used legitimately as a table for meals. But without that, if that's not the case, then if you need 2, 3, 4 bar stools, that's not too hard to accomplish with a typical island. And it's just a very practical use of that space because It's really twofold. One is you can sit there for a snack or a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is you've got all that space to use for a work surface. If you're doing a lot of cooking or baking cookies for Christmas or who knows what, I mean, that extra counter space really comes in handy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. I know when we built our house, originally the plan had kind of a bump up for bar seating,
Mm-hmm.
and I had them lower it just because I wanted that additional kind of prep space and for the kids to be able to sit up at the counter and bake cookies and decorate cookies and things like that. And I'm so glad I did, because we do everything at our island.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like ground zero in our house is the kitchen island.
Yeah.
It's also the biggest junk collector. But
And you know,
so be it.
if storage is a big issue and if you need as much storage as possible, sometimes we'll put 12-inch deep cabinets underneath the snack bar area.
Yeah.
So maybe you have a 48-inch wide island. Well, the cabinets on one side that might have a dishwasher or who knows what, they're going to be 24 inches deep, so that leaves 24 inches on the back side.
Yeah.
So you can add 12 inches of cabinetry there. Now, granted, it's a little hard to get to because you have to move stools out of the way to get to it, but at least it's space there for things that you don't use very frequently, and that works out well too.
Yeah, we did do that in our home, and I'm so glad we did, for just, you know, those various entertaining platters that you don't use all the time, but you don't necessarily want to have to go to the basement to get either. So it's definitely helpful having them, and we actually didn't even put hardware on those cabinets, so they kind of just blend in and look like molding. But I am glad we did that. It's a great space for kind of extra storage, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So island ends are a great place to put little focal points.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot there. A lot of times we'll put a nice decorative valance, maybe some columns down the side, and maybe a very nice bookcase.
Yeah.
For cookbooks, works great for that.
Yeah.
Or maybe some glass doors if you want to put some glassware inside there. So the island end can be a really nice showcase for any number of things.
Yeah, and even we have one really large island in our showroom, and one of everybody's favorite features when they come in is that the end cap on that one has the shelves for the cookbooks, and then on the bottom it has built-in dog bowls, one for the food and one for the water, and the dogs especially like it when they come into our showroom, but people also find it really cool.
Do we have little doggy treats in those?
We do. I don't recommend the dogs eating them, though. My dog always goes after them if I bring them in the office. And I'm like, those have been out a while. I really wouldn't recommend it.
I don't think the dogs would mind. Okay. So the island also can be a nice contrasting subject. It can be a different color, and oftentimes we're doing that. Maybe the perimeter cabinets are painted and the island is a natural wood stain.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's two different colors, complementing color. And of course the counter space too can also be contrasting and complementing. So the island can be kind of a focal point and just add a little pizzazz to the design and the feel of the kitchen when you're in it.
Yeah, I mean, we've even done some partial kitchen projects where, maybe we're just doing countertops and backsplash or something like that. And then we've done them too where we're leaving all the perimeter cabinetry and just putting in a new island with new tops and backsplash. And it completely changes the kitchen. And I think an island, the shape and size of it makes such an impact in the kitchen that even just changing that can totally transform your kitchen.
Yeah. And it can be very decorative if you want, very ornamental, or maybe the rest of the cabinets are more plain. I mean, we've done that before, put really nice fancy columns on the corners of an island in a different color and just really make it a huge focal point. And it does just change the kitchen dramatically. It's amazing how some of those things can make such a huge difference. So today we're talking islands and in the Caribbean and in your kitchen. So maybe we'll talk about some of the Caribbean islands in the next segment, Jamie.
All right, sounds good.
Maybe. Okay. All right, we'll be right back. And welcome back to the island adventure of Dave Fox Home Remodeling. Right, Jamie?
That's right. That's a good name. Maybe
we're
I'll
on
call
a winter island
that.
Adventure.
Our island adventure.
That's
kitchen
right.
island.
This takes us to St. Thomas Island. And
You're making me want to go on vacation.
We're going scuba diving. Oh,
never mind.
No, you're not going scuba.
Never mind. I'll stay here.
Okay, that's right. Okay, well, if we can't do that, then let's talk about islands and kitchens. All right?
Okay. Deal. All right. So we talked about some fun kind of end caps on the islands and the different uses. So with the bookshelves and dog bowls, extra storage. There's also a lot of times we'll see that we're putting in a lot of extra appliances in the island. It's a good place to put some of those additional appliances and things like that, like a beverage fridge is a popular one we've seen in an island. One I can think of we did recently where it was a pretty good size island. It didn't actually have anything in the island, but had 2 refrigerator drawers in the island, which I thought was cool because they were used more for like snacks for the kids to be able to get easy access to those. And then and drawers in general in the island just work really well. They're nice and big for additional storage and things like that.
You know, I could just see that working. So when we had the grandkids living in the house, my wife was trying to cook something in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the kids are always wanting to go to the fridge for a snack, right?
Sure.
Man, if we would have had that, that would have been so handy because then the kids aren't in her way, you know, when she's getting something, putting something in the fridge or getting something out.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to those snack drawers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know where the goods are at, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's cool. And I like the beverage fridge in the island as well for kind of that same reason. You know, if you're entertaining and you're kind of prepping food or getting things ready and your guests want to be able to help themselves to a beverage, or, you know, sometimes your significant other, whoever isn't the cook is sometimes responsible for the beverages, to be able to get those without being in the cook's way is definitely nice. But yeah.
You know, that drawer that we have in our island in our design studio is really cool because it can be a freezer or a refrigerator. And you can just change the setting on it for whatever the occasion is.
I know. I think that's so cool. Someone had explained too, or thought of like for a party, you could fill part of it with ice, you know, and have everyone be able to get their ice from there. And then also, or if you had a big cake, it's like the perfect spot to put a really big cake for a party, things like that. But that thing is really cool. It's a giant refrigerator drawer, but it's really big. So it holds a good amount of stuff and you can really store some good things in there. It even has a pantry setting on it too. So if you don't want it to cool and you just want to use it for extra storage, you can do that as well.
You know, there's one appliance that is extinct now.
What's that?
You know what that is? The trash compactor.
Yes.
Man, years ago, people can tell how long I've been doing this. But man, trash compactors many years ago were the big deal. And they always seem to find a place in the island.
Yeah.
But I can't think of the last one of those we put in. Have you ever seen us put one in?
I've never seen us put one in.
Have you ever seen a trash compactor?
Yeah, I had one in my house growing up,
Yeah.
but I've never seen us put one in.
Mm-hmm.
I did see someone I know moved into a house that had a trash compactor and they hated it. But they took that out and got a pellet ice maker. And it's like the same size, so it fits right in that slot. Cool. And those little pellet ice, they're so cute and delicious. I love those. I was like, adding that to my kitchen bucket list.
Yeah. So that probably was like 12 or 15 inches wide then?
Yeah, it was something like that. And it just fit. It was the exact same size as the trash compactor. So their choices were that or a wine fridge. And I think they had a wine fridge somewhere else. So it worked perfect.
Yeah, so we've got the refrigerator drawers, freezer drawers, the dual purpose combo, which is a refrigerator or freezer, depending on how you set it.
Yeah.
And then a little under-counter wine cooler.
Yeah.
Would work.
And then also I've seen too, we're working on a project now where there's actually 2 islands in the kitchen, which we'll have to get into because that's another popular trend. But one of the islands is kind of the cleaning island, I guess, with the sink and the dishwasher and the trash. And then the other island is more that prep island. That's just open space, but it actually has I forget what they're called, but it's kind of a quick cooking oven and a microwave. But it does both, which I think is really cool. So
so it's a microwave drawer.
Yeah, but it also is a convection oven, which I think is great because it kind of is 2 appliances in one and doesn't take up nearly as much space as another full-size oven would.
Definitely.
But yeah, I thought that was really cool and a good spot for it too, tucked away in the island like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the microwave drawers are also handy for kids that they can get to warm up stuff.
Or short adults.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, and it's a better option than having the old microwave above your cooktop, right?
Yes.
That had the exhaust fan built in. Yeah, we don't really like to put those in. You're reaching over in an oven, and it just doesn't work that well.
Yeah, that was one of the first things to go in our house because I can't reach it anyways, and so to get a step stool out every time I had to get something out of the microwave seemed a little productive, unproductive for cooking. But yeah, so 2 islands is I'm actually looking at these pictures behind our head here on our screens here, but that's definitely become more popular as kind of this double island, which I think is really neat.
Yeah. Sometimes we run into some of the newer homes have a very spacious floor plan in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And we have room to do that. Or if we're taking a wall out between a kitchen and a dining room, maybe it'll allow us the room to do 2 islands. Mm-hmm. It's not in a lot of cases, but in some, and that does really make a unique floor plan and very functional.
Yeah.
And the islands, you have so much flexibility with islands, even in the height, because sometimes we'll have very tall clients.
Yeah.
And they need a couple extra inches at the island, where typically we're setting them at 36 inches high, just like the rest of the countertops in the kitchen. I mean, we've had cases where we'll set them at 37, 38 inches.
Yeah.
Just because we have a tall client and they want a taller area to work on. So with an island, you've got flexibility to do a little bit of different things to accommodate the particular client's needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one thing that one client had brought up at a photo shoot was that the second island, where it was more for the prep space, was the plan. She found that her kids ended up doing their homework there, like while she was cooking and things like that. And I thought that was a really cool concept. And, and even she said it's an even better use than I thought it would have. So she was happy to have the kids not in their room.
Yeah. That reminds me, you need a little place to plug your laptop in, right?
Yes.
So we have these cool outlets that mount right in the cabinetry. And like on my island, I've got one on each corner. And they're round and they're colored. So my main cabinets in the kitchen are kind of a classic white panel door. Uh-huh. But the island is a rich cherry color.
Yeah.
So we've got the brown outlets in the corners of that island, and you can't even hardly see them unless you're looking for them. But they're so handy. Like if I'm carving a turkey, I just plug the electric knife in there, or if we're making popcorn, we'll plug the popcorn maker in there, and I could be at any corner of that island, and I've got that outlet right there to do whatever I need to do.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that's where anytime we do anything, bring out the waffle maker, bring out, the immersion blender, anything, I always bring it to the island opposed to kind of the perimeter, because on the perimeter you have those wall cabinets typically, and they tend to be in the way. I also always worry about the steam from something, depending on what you're cooking, kind of ruining those upper cabinets. So I like to do everything like that on the island. But it's so convenient to be able to just do everything right there.
Yep. So the popcorn maker comes out every Sunday night. That's our ritual. That's our evening meals. Popcorn and watching TV, me and my wife.
Sounds very relaxing.
Yeah, it is.
I look forward to the days that those are my Sunday nights.
So that's when I cook, on the popcorn night.
Popcorn, that's right. That's your specialty.
That's right. Okay, so we've been talking kitchen islands here, and kitchen islands, we've said they're very flexible. They can be a contrasting color, different counter heights, snack bar area. They're just really multifunctional, and you can have a number of different appliances in an island. And if you're struggling trying to find space for an island, that's when you need to call one of our designers out to help you figure out how that can be done.
That's right.
Maybe we do a little 2-foot or 3-foot bump out, or who knows what. Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. And today our topic is kitchen islands, right? We haven't got to the Caribbean islands yet, Jamie.
Yeah, we'll save that for next week.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. All right. So, we've covered a lot of territory so far. Right?
Yeah. A lot of counter space.
Yeah. A lot of counter space territory.
There you go.
And under the counter space.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of counters, we haven't talked about that much, but one thing you mentioned with the different cabinetry and different countertops is another thing we've seen on islands that I think is really cool is doing a butcher block top for the counter on the island, which is really fun. We're both sitting here at these countertops. I keep feeling it. Ours are a Cambria quartz surface here. Mm-hmm. Yours is a gloss, and mine is the matte finish, which makes it really soft. So I keep touching it. But it's
I need a little more glitter, so the gloss is good for me.
Yeah, you like a little glitter in your life. I knew that about you, Gary. I just knew it.
Yeah.
But it can make a really cool impact, too, to just go completely different on the island. You know, we do a lot of different contrasting quartz and things like that, but then also to add in those wood tones with the butcher block or things like that. Another thing we had talked about, too, is with the islands and the overhangs, how do you support that weight? So if you have, you know, a 24-inch cabinet and then a 12-inch cabinet, but your overhang is another, 12 inches, do you need anything to kind of hold that up? Yeah.
There's always a way. There's always a way.
Tell me your secrets.
Okay. So, yeah, now you've got Cambria quartz or any quartz product, and you've got real granite. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you knew this, but the granites that are kind of a typical solid color are a lot stronger than the ones that have a whole bunch of color and veining and variation in them. So all those things have to be taken into consideration on how to support that. A granite with a lot of movement and color in it is going to need the most support.
Okay.
So we're typically going to take some steel angle. Maybe it's 3/8 of an inch thick by 4 inches wide. So it's really heavy angle. And we'll go to a steel fabricator and have them actually make special brackets. So these brackets, in that situation, we typically have a wall that's across the back of the island. And then that wall is going to have 2x4 studs in, and we can anchor these large steel bent angle pieces. We bolt them into the wall, that knee wall that's forming the back of the island. And then they come and they project out maybe 10 inches or so, or 12 inches. And we might put those every 2 feet apart.
Okay.
So they're going to be very sturdy. They're pretty inconspicuous. You can't see them unless you stick your head under the counter.
Okay.
So it looks like the extension there is just free floating, but it's really got these steel pieces underneath supporting it. So that's a typical way to do it. There's times, Jamie, when we've had an island that was very odd shaped and maybe it's suspended over a lot larger area. Sometimes we'll have a steel network of angles that's actually welded together and made specifically for that purpose.
Oh, wow.
So that we do occasionally. So we have to if we have a longer span and need to support more area, we'll have something fabricated to do that. I can remember one where we had a translucent type of a granite and had some veining in it that was translucent. We put LED lighting under there. So we had kind of a large expanse, so we had very special support made for that and the LED lighting, and that was really quite dramatic.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I know. It's funny because as I'm feeling underneath our, counters here, feeling the support, you really don't ever notice that it's there until you kind of feel around for it. So now everyone at home is going to go look under their islands and see what's holding it up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And your traditional quartz products are a little sturdier. It's more of a man-made. It's got a resin that's bonding all the quartz together. So you can span a little more distance with those, but they're still going to need some help most often.
Yeah. And then what about when it's quartz I've seen kind of come in a little bit of a thicker, countertop.
Thicker edge?
Yeah. But then I've learned, the IDs told me that's really just kind of a facade. It's not necessarily thick, the whole way through, edge. Which I think is cool. But those I would imagine actually even kind of hide the supports a little more.
They'd almost completely hide it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Mm-hmm. All right, great. And then another big piece of an island, or I guess it's a little detached from the island, but hanging right above it is the lighting. Yeah. That can really impact a kitchen.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a real feature spot for lighting. And it's a good, island lighting is when you have a beautiful sunset and palm trees in the background. I'm thinking of island lighting and being at a real island.
Yeah.
But in the kitchen, it's kind of interesting because we had some people over to our home a while back. And I've remodeled the whole kitchen. The only thing we didn't change was the pendant lights yet. I mean, that's on my list, but it's like low on the list, and we just never even think about it. But they're these small little pendant lights, and we had some actually some kitchen design people in our house, and they said, "Oh, I love those small pendant lights. Everyone's going with the great big lights, and those." It's like they loved them, and it's like, what? We thought we were almost
That's
embarrassed
the only thing
of
we
them.
didn't change. Yeah.
But that was really funny. But a lot of the lighting we're doing in islands is large, and we kind of came up with the term pendelier.
Yes.
It's like a chandelier, but it's a pendant. So larger pendants that really make more of an impact visually, as well as the light that they give off. So maybe in cases, years ago, we would just use multiple small pendants over an island. So now maybe we're using the larger pendeliers to get more of a dramatic look and also really good lighting, or maybe even a giant custom-made unit. That, like on my island, I'm picturing maybe a black wrought iron type of a fixture that's maybe 6 or 7 feet long.
Oh, wow.
So it would span over a fair amount of my island and have lighting. And so, but now that those kitchen designers like those little pendants over the island, maybe I need to rethink that.
Maybe maybe leave them. That's cool. No, I think too, one thing, I was with one of our interior designers, Michelle, and she had mentioned, all the mixed metals are really popular now. Kind of, you don't need, just because you have gold hardware doesn't mean you need the gold faucet and the gold everything. And, appliances kind of get a freebie. They can be whatever, they can be totally different because usually they're stainless steel if they're shown. And that's not necessarily what you're doing everywhere else. And lighting is a great opportunity to kind of bring in those mixed metals. Because if you look at a lot of the lighting, we happen to be at Ferguson, and a lot of them have those mixed metals of it's a black, pendant with some gold features and things like that. And that kind of embraces that mixed metal that you might be having going on in your kitchen and things like that. So I thought that was a really cool kind of way to look at the lighting as tying it all together in the space.
That's a great point. And just lighting in general is such an important part of any kitchen layout, because obviously if you've got a nice large island area, you're going to be doing some food prep there. You're going to be rolling out cookies or pie dough or something. And you'll need good lighting for that. But also the island lighting is great in the evening when, maybe you're just casually walking through the kitchen occasionally. Maybe you can put those island lights on dimmers and create more of a mood. And you don't need all the other perimeter lights on. So having options in lighting in how you're using the space at the time is really important.
Yeah, I agree. And making sure, too, when you are designing your kitchen and taking that lighting into account, the island should always be on a separate switch and on a dimmer to create kind of those different levels and layers in the lighting.
Exactly.
Because you're right, it is such a nice feature when just the island lights are on.
Yep. Okay. So today we've been talking kitchen islands, and next week we're talking about the Caribbean islands, right, Jamie?
Yeah, and we're going to go to the Caribbean. For
Is that right?
That was what I heard.
Live from the Caribbean islands.
Yeah.
All right. We'll have to figure out which one we're going to.
Okay.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in this morning, and we want to know that you can go to davefoxradio.com, and there you can listen to any of our previously broadcast shows. We've got a lot of them there. And we're always here every Sunday morning at 8. So next Sunday morning at 8, we expect to see everybody here. We'll be back then.